To have you on the news.
Thank you very much.
Now, President Biden has signed 17 executive orders aimed at reversing his predecessor's policies. Do you think his actions are too quick?
Certainly not too quick, because when Biden was campaigning to become the 46th president of the United States, he rolled out a number of issues and matters that would engage his administration. And the executive orders yesterday that he signed bore testimony to the importance that he attached to those issues. The very first that he signed was on COVID-19, and of course, amongst the three that he signed yesterday was the return of the United States to the Paris Agreement, an agreement that America provided leadership under Obama. And let us not forget that Biden was Obama's vice president. And when Trump won the election in 2016, took over 2017, and also almost on his first day in office, decided that he was taking America out of the Paris Agreement, it should come as no surprise that a President Biden that succeeds Trump will naturally want to take America back to the Paris Agreement. But beyond that, America's return is a re-engagement of America with the international community, because the withdrawal was a setback in 2017, and certainly America beat a retreat under Trump. So the 17 executive orders yesterday that President Biden signed, which was his first day in office, was in effect resetting the American button, both domestically and internationally. So we are hoping to see an engaged America, an America that leads from the front, and an America that believes in globalism without the isolationist policy of America first, as if America in the present world can exist in an island. So it's a most welcome thing to see that President Biden has returned America to the Paris Club, and we hope a better engagement too with the United Nations.
And still on the Paris Agreement and membership of the World Health Organization, how impactful will it be on health and climatic action?
One can only be hopeful, because the exit of America last year under very controversial circumstances, one would attribute to Trump's own ideal of what his presidency was all about, was most unfortunate. And I think it was largely because America was missing on the table that the fight against COVID-19 took the shape that it took. But now that America is rejoining the WHO and coming back very actively, domestically, to take robust actions to contain the virus, can give hope that indeed we have a leadership that is sensitive, a leadership that is caring, and a leadership that is willing to take and go the distance in order to overcome a challenge that is not only domestic but global in scope.
And still talking about that global scope, I'm sure many countries, Nigeria inclusive, are ecstatic about the lifting of the ban by President Joe Biden. What does this portend for diplomatic relations between the U.S. and other countries?
Again, it's one of those actions that President Biden has taken to give the indication of what he wants to do in the next 4 years. He is, unlike any other American president, the most prepared president to occupy the White House. For 36 years, he was in the U.S. Senate, and for 8 years, he was vice president, and now he has the full mantle to be the commander-in-chief in the United States. So by setting aside the ill-advised ban on certain countries based on an ideology, or even, let one be more direct, the beliefs of those countries, was one that did not bode well for international relations. It was one also that kind of put a stigma on countries not minding whether every citizen of that country was deserving of such a treatment or not. So for us in Nigeria and Africa in particular, it's a welcome thing to see that obnoxious ban has been lifted, and hopefully immigration will also take a new shape under President Joe Biden in the United States.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm sure the world will be watching and waiting to see how events unfold.
Thank you.
And that was retired Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Bulus Lolo, on the United States President's new policies. Meanwhile, United States President Joe Biden signed 17 executive orders on first day in office, just as Hungary becomes first country in Europe to approve Russia's COVID-19 vaccine. Joyce Ometu has details on Global Update.
U.S. President Joe Biden has begun to undo some of Donald Trump's key policies as after being sworn in. In his initial act as the 46th U.S. president, he signed 17 executive orders, the first to boost the federal response to the coronavirus crisis. Others are that of climate change and immigration. Meanwhile, world leaders have welcomed the U.S. presidency of Joe Biden, expressing hope for a reset in relations after 4 turbulent years under his predecessor. Prime ministers, presidents, and spiritual leaders across the globe congratulated Mr. Biden. In another development, the United States under Joe Biden intends to join the COVAX vaccine facility aimed at delivering vaccines to poor countries. The United States will also remain a member of the World Health Organization. And from Mongolia, we hear that the Prime Minister has resigned following protests and public outrage over the treatment of a coronavirus patient and her newborn baby. His resignation is still subject to approval by that country's parliament. In the meantime, Hungary became the first European nation to approve Russia's Sputnik V coronavirus vaccine, as Prime Minister Viktor Orban takes a pre-election risk to accelerate the country's exit from the coronavirus crisis. Now, statistics from Worldometer Coronavirus Dashboard reveals that total recoveries worldwide have exceeded 70 million, with 2 million fatalities on record. Nigeria on Wednesday reported 1,386 new cases of COVID-19 and 14 deaths from the virus. A total of 114,691 infections have now been reported across the nation. In other news, at least 32 people have been killed and dozens injured in a twin suicide bombing in Iraq's capital, Baghdad. The last deadly suicide attack in the city was in January 2018, when 35 people were killed in the same square. And that ends this segment. I am Joyce Ometu.
Thank you, Joyce. The Nigeria Governors Forum has dissociated itself from statements made by the Kogi State Governor Yahya Bello, undermining the efficacy of containing the infection and spread of the virus. The reaction to the governor's remarks in the media came to the fore at the forum's 24th teleconference on COVID-19. Abubakar Usman Akwanga reports.
In a communique issued at the 24th teleconference of the forum, NGF says it is not part of the statement credited to Kogi Governor Yahya Bello and assured Nigerians of unwavering commitment to defeat COVID-19. The forum also interfaces with global and local partners, including the World Bank, on the epidemic preparedness innovations to facilitate COVID-19 vaccines by February 2021. The National Primary Health Care Development Agency and a renowned virologist, Professor Oyewale Tomori, are working to ensure smooth transition of vaccines with priority to the aged and those with underlying medical conditions. Governor Ifeanyi Okowa of Delta State interfaces with Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 on upsurge of the pandemic and Dr. Sarah Alade on development of Nigerian Agenda 2050. The forum received presentation on sustainable water supply, sanitation and hygiene, SUWASH, results-based financing programs for states with World Bank funding of $700 million. The forum received presentation from Dimensions Information Technology and Governor of Edo State Godwin Obaseki on harmonized traffic management to boost revenue and domestication of National Charter of Account for 2020 state fiscal transparency, accountability and sustainability. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari has made a case for Nigerians to see the payment of taxes as a solemn and patriotic obligation, saying that no nation has ever made progress without having to pay taxes. Declaring open the first national tax dialogue, the president also insisted that foreign businesses must not be allowed to continue exploiting the nation's markets and economy without paying appropriate taxes. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports that the event was put together by the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
The first national tax dialogue with the theme Taxation in a Post-COVID-19 Economy is a deliberate attempt by the federal government at getting insights and wisdom from a broad spectrum of the society on how best to improve Nigeria's revenue receipts for sustainable growth and development.
There is so much to look forward to in the coming years. The FRS is starting this decade with the resolve to leapfrog tax administration into the digital age. We are banking on your continuous support as we embark on this wondrous journey.
2021 is a year of recovery, a year that we will be recovering from the recession, and a year that taxpayers, both businesses and individuals, will be setting back to the path of growth.
We are starting to see a diversification of revenue, tracking the economic diversification objective of the APC government.
The African Development Bank is ready to provide needed technical and institutional support to Federal Inland Revenue Service and to Nigeria to build up its capacity for tax administration.
In his virtual address to participants, President Muhammadu Buhari made it clear that his administration is not seeking to increase the tax burden on Nigerians, but to plug existing loopholes and ensure equitable application of the tax laws.
This was clearly demonstrated by the provision of the Finance Act 2019, whereby government exempted small companies from tax and reduced the income tax rate for medium companies from 30% to 20%. We went further to cushion the burden of tax on the low-wage workers by exempting minimum wage from personal income tax.
The president, however, said with the devastating effect of COVID-19 on the economy, a debt profile of more than 32 trillion naira, as well as a tax-to-GDP ratio of about 6%, Nigeria has no alternative than to do whatever it takes towards achieving optimal tax revenue generation potential.
It is not enough that our citizens and local businesses pay their fair share of taxes. Equally, foreign businesses must also not be allowed to continue to exploit our markets and economy without paying appropriate taxes. The Federal Inland Revenue Service has my mandate to speedily put all measures in place to fully implement programs to stamp out base erosion and profit shifting in all their ramifications and generally automate its tax processes. It is therefore incumbent to do all that is required in order to efficiently collect tax revenue due from transactions carried out using local and foreign online platforms.
President Buhari directed all government agencies and business enterprises to grant the Federal Inland Revenue Service access to all their systems for seamless connection. The deployment of technology for automation, he however said, must be done in line with international best practices. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
This is the news on NTA International. There will be more reports after this timeout.
What limits you? Nothing. Who defines you? No one. Where can you go? Everywhere. With unlimited super-fast internet access, free Intel to Intel calls, and crystal clear quality conversations, you can do and be whatever you want to be. Intel. Live more.
Thanks for staying with NTA International. Experts are hopeful that recent efforts by the federal government to provide 300,000 units to low-income earners under the National Social Housing Program will reduce the housing deficit in Nigeria. Abdurrahman Usman Jibrila reports that these experts also assert that the initiative will boost socio-economic activities and improve the welfare of beneficiaries and workers engaged in the production value chain.
Issues of economic hardship among local manufacturers, building collapse, and non-engagement of services of professionals by clients were among topics that engage experts at this event. The intention is to provide solutions to successfully bridge the gap in the housing deficit in Nigeria by initially targeting mass housing construction in metropolitan areas. This group realizes the task at hand and that the stakes are high. Instance, the COVID-19 pandemic continues to threaten activities within the sector. This group not only intends to strategize on how best to accelerate activities within the housing sector, but how to achieve best results in spite of the pandemic.
Building collapse are issues that should be managed in such a way that clients should engage the services of qualified professionals. In all of the incidences of building collapse in the country, it is hardly for you to pinpoint any qualified engineers, architects, or quantity surveyors.
Not just about service delivery, but ensuring quality, standards, and excellence. These experts, some engineers, some architects, and some quantity surveyors, are hoping for the best results that makes housing affordable and accessible. In Abuja, Abdurrahman Usman Jibrila, NTA News.
And just in, President Muhammadu Buhari has ordered an immediate response to rising cases of bandit attacks on communities in Zamfara State. In a directive to the National Security Advisor, Major General Babagana Munguno, the President orders that there must be a clear pathway to ending the resurgent banditry, which has continued to cost lives and the displacement of thousands of families from their towns and villages. A meeting to deliberate on security and the issue of illegal mining, which is fueling the crisis in Zamfara State, is to be held soon. Beyond the problems of bandits and cattle rustlers, the scale of lawlessness has been aggravated by the illegal miners who are harvesting resources they have no legal right to exploit. This meeting is expected to address these and associated issues of corruption, government oversight, and lawlessness. Meanwhile, the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons has flagged off the distribution of relief materials to 400 IDPs in Yobe State affected by the onslaught of Boko Haram terrorists in the northeast. The Federal Commissioner of the Commission, Senator Bashir Garba Mohammed, says the items are aimed at alleviating the suffering of targeted beneficiaries. Yunusa Suleiman reports.
It is the maiden distribution exercise in the year 2021, but among numerous livelihood supports to IDPs in Yobe State by the National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons. The distribution of the relief materials targeting 400 IDPs by the Commission was necessitated following the recent influx of more persons of concern into Damaturu from the neighboring Borno State, with beneficiaries describing the gesture as timely.
Thank you. Yeah, this food, I really appreciate it because it will take care of us at home.
The Federal Commissioner, National Commission for Refugees, Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons represented says the exercise is in fulfillment of the Commission's mandate in providing care, assistance and durable solutions to persons of concern.
The Commission, with the support of the Central Bank of Nigeria, has commenced another program to substantially address the issue of durable solution for displaced persons, known as Project Reliance.
Our only call is for them to sustain the support and also to expand the housing construction for IDPs.
The Commission, since inception, has been partnering with Yobe State government in response to the flights of IDPs as well as other vulnerable groups in the state. In Damaturu, Yunusa Suleiman, NTA News.
Similarly, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, is expanding its horizon to equip its staff with the requisite knowledge of first aid skills which can be applied to victims of accident and other disasters. This is in line with the policy drive of the federal government under President Muhammadu Buhari to build a robust emergency medical service in the country. Correspondent Ilyasu Ali Yakubu reports.
Accident or disasters are inevitable, but when they do occur, simple first aid can help reduce substantially the degree of injury or prevent death. This is the whole idea behind the training for NEMA personnel to provide immediate support that may be applied in resuscitating and stabilizing victims of disasters. The training of the Enugu Zonal Office of the agency involved practicalizing the modus operandi of life saving in the event of accident. Participants at the training say they are now better equipped with the required knowledge to embark on the humanitarian job.
It's bringing us back on the skills, the things we needed to put in order to reduce the pains from the victim.
It has been valuable. The experience is awesome. The first aid training is very relevant to the society. It is said that if there should be a first aider in every family or in every neighborhood available, emergencies will be reduced.
And we expect that the staff will be really equipped to carry out their duties and functions as prescribed by the policies in disaster management.
This basic first aid training is one of the critical components of disaster management, and it is to henceforth be a major part of the agency's operations. From Enugu, Ilyasu Aliaku, NTA News.
And in the world of sports, a condolence register has been opened in honor of former national football assistant coach Joe Errico, who died on Thursday morning in Lagos after a brief illness. Gift George was at the family house of the late football coach and now reports.
The sports fraternity was thrown into mourning following the passing away of former Super Eagles assistant coach Joe Errico. The late Joe Errico made his mark as a player with NEPA Football Club in the 70s. He was then called to be part of the Green Eagles, who ended with a bronze medal at the 1976 African Cup of Nations in Ethiopia. After his playing career, he went on to coach Julius Berger, who introduced Jogo Bonito's style of play, which had Brazilian flair.
In football industry, Nigeria just means a big fish. A big fish in respect of ramifications of football, because it's very transparent, very truthful, and honest is his watchword.
Put the ball on the ground. Go and ask whoever played under him. From Julius Berger to the national team of Nigeria, it made football look so easy.
He was part of the coaching crew that qualified Nigeria's under-23 team to the Sydney Olympic Games. He was later recalled to the Super Eagles technical crew as assistant coach to late coaches Amadou Shuaibu and Stephen Keshi. for the 2002 African Cup of Nations in Mali and also for the 2002 World Cup qualification.
He has really done well for Nigerian team. You see, when he started with the assistant coach, when he has 3 groups, when he was in the under-23, name it.
Training children in the aspect of sports, up to having an academy for children.
Somebody who believe in grassroots development, somebody who believe in progress, always believing that we can achieve.
The late Joe Errico died at the age of 72 in Lagos. Gift George, NTA Sports.
May he rest in peace. And on that note, we conclude the news on NTA International. Remember to stand with NTA against rape and rapists.
For now, the best and most efficient way to avoid getting infected is through regular hygienic and sanitary practices, as well as social distancing. As individuals, we remain the greatest weapon to fight this pandemic. By washing our hands regularly with clean water and soap, disinfecting frequently used surfaces and areas, coughing into a tissue or elbow, and strictly adhering to infection prevention control measures in health facilities, we can contain this virus.